Well, we're live right here from the Political Stew Studios. A whole lot happening in Nigeria and across the continent, and it has to do with elections. Two major elections happening in, or rather, on the continent, uh, in Nigeria and in Kenya. Welcome, I'm Sulaiman Aled, and today on the platform, we'll be looking at some of the key things that will, define uh, and also, strengthen the conversation amongst the political parties in the country. And notably, we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about electricity, or you want to call it energy. And of course, one big thing, financing. And today we have someone who's a global affairs analyst and someone who's always giving his service to the people and his community and his motherland, Nigeria. Ejike Okpa joins me live on Political Stew. Ejike, good to see you and thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you. Like I said, begin before we went live. I said, thank God I see you often because of technology. Because if I had ran into you on the street, I was like, hey, is that the guy? Because you have a fertilizer that makes this thing come. I wish I can borrow some of that.
I don't know, just the way you have your cave where you work out. I think we're looking and taking after you and trying to. I think someday we should talk about our health and our well-being. Someday on the conversation. But again, this is happening in Nigeria, and just recently you were also at the Nexim, confirm. But let's first of all talk about Nigeria. Uh, the elections are upon us, and all the parties are all done and dusted with their primaries. Looking at the conversation, people are still not looking at some of the key issues. And that is why we've looked at some of the key things that Nigerians should be looking at the moment: infrastructure, uh, energy, and of course, financing. And I'm quite sure that many Nigerians will be interested to know a whole lot about financing. But let's start talking about the political parties and their manifestos and the conversations that we hope to see. What are the driving force of political parties and their conversations in Nigeria as we go into this big election?
Well, thank you. The topics or the issues you want to talk about are very critical. No nation, continent can think of development in the sense we know it that can positively impact their life. If energy is not available in a robust manner, it's not generator, it's not going to be strictly solar on your roof. That's not. I mean, that's a temporary solution, but that's not a permanent solution. You're talking about energy, and just like we know, we have talked about this on the show. Electricity debuted in Nigeria 1896, okay, 126 years ago. And the engineering and science behind that has not changed dramatically.
Let's take that again. 1896.
Yes, 64 years before Nigeria became independent, a power plant was built in Nigeria. America built power plant 106 years after independence. So Nigerians can just talk about this thing as if it's just new. They have had it, but they just have never been able to develop it and make it their own and build local capacity to help make it work for them. So these are some of the things that are lost on Nigerians because they think their life started there, after independence. No, just like banking. Nigeria started doing branch banking before America started doing branch branch banking. That is having one bank doing all kinds of business. America that came into America in 1988. But Nigeria with Barclays Bank and Standard Bank, the two British banks, and Bank of America, who were in Nigeria, before independence, were already doing that. So Nigerians oftentimes don't look at their own history. They think, oh my God, we're a young country. No, Nigeria has been amalgamated since what, 1805. So they shouldn't just give themselves this consolation. Oh, we're just a new country. They've been there just as long as everybody else. And they have had things that other people even had at the beginning. They just never took the leadership or the attitude that is needed to make it work. I can talk about.
Two key things. Allow me butt in here. Two key things you've raised, and it's amazing that Nigerians were almost ahead. Now you talk about branch banking. It's novel that you bring this to the fore. And again, you've also talked about electricity. As I say, you don't need to re-event. It's already cast and done. So what do you think is truly the problem? Because looking at these two sectors, it looks as if they're non-existent.
Well, the thing is, Nigeria politics is a personality politics. It has nothing to do with the content of the candidate. It's just whoever is going to make them feel good, who looks like they can go over there and show them more benevolent attitude. Because the government Nigeria has had is benevolent. It's not institutional, it's not agency. So, P2B feels good, makes us feel good, Atiku makes us feel good, Tinubu makes us because it's this and this and that. But there's really nothing behind all those street chants. So they get into office, and these people who are not intellectually superior, they are not intellectually vigor, and they don't even speak to the heart of Nigeria to say, this is what the challenge is. Because a lot of them get elected and say, oh, my hands are tied. And the Nigerians, okay, why would you want to be elected governor or president so that your hands will be tied? I thought you were going there to get the job done. But they don't know how to get the job done. They don't know how to get the job done. You go look at the history of the states where these people are coming from, P2B, Anambra State, Tinubu, Lagos State, what is his name, Atiku, whatever state, Adamawa.
Adamawa.
I mean, those places are physically depressing. So what have they missed at their micro state level that they're going to now do nationwide? Because they are not policy savvy people. They have not addressed the core issues that are limiting Nigeria.
Now let's start addressing these issues, because I'm certain that some people will be shocked to hear you say that these people and their states, now let's take it one after the other. The Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi, many would say Anambra was a fantastic place after he left office. And you saying that there's nothing to actually show.
Okay, let's just take it step by step. I'm very familiar with Anambra State. Physically speaking, Anambra State is 40 miles by 40 miles. It's longer east-west than it is north-south. Okay, for 8 years that P2B was there, Anambra State does not have water system. There is not road connectivity. Okay, in fact, the trash in Onitsha, in some of these places, we bury everybody in Anambra State. If you were to level it and cover the people, it's so high. So what did P2B do? Okay, P2B, people are saying, oh, stingy. P2B reminds me of Bararabe Musa of Kaduna State back in the 79-83, who just kept the state money and refused to spend it. And everyone thought that was governance. No, wasn't governance. The money is not his. He's supposed to release the money and use it judiciously for the physical well-being of the state. It's not to what he wants. The Nigerian people look to their president as to what he wants to do for them. And that is why, for as long as Nigeria has lived, nothing has worked. Because, is Buhari going to build us road? When you go around, you see things, when they put up a sign for construction, they say the governor's name. It's not the state. The governor and blah, 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 as if the governor is writing the check about his personal money. So that mentality and attitude is what is enabling this larger-than-life ego these candidates put on the stage when they're. So Anambra State is a disappointment. If you go to Anambra State, apart from the government house, which is right there by the highway, the State House of Assembly is a disappointment. In fact, if you like your dog, you wouldn't want to put it in the facility where the State Assembly is, because it's massive. I've been there many times. The clerk of the house is my schoolmate. I have visited it. Ekweme Square, that former vice president or blah 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 that is named It's like the Eagle Square in Abuja. You go to Ekweme Square, it is disappointing. So what did P2B do? What did he do in Anambra State? Okay, this legislature, if he was such a savvy political figure, how many members of APGA serve in National Assembly? Because you should have, created that sort of local goodwill to where a lot of these members of the Anambra State House of Assembly will be APGA. They're still PDP or APC, because the reason P2B was able to survive because he was bribing his way through the whole process. Even though they say he was impeached, I mean, where was he impeached? How long did he stay out of office before he got back into it? The judge who tried the state case, wasn't it somebody he appointed? So that doesn't show anything about his ability to negotiate through difficult times. He just managed to seize the money and use the money as he wished, even though he said he built some roads. Anambra State does not have 500 miles of well-built road in the state. 500 miles. There are no pipelines for water. There are no credible state institutions for health. There's nothing. Oka, which is the state capital, doesn't even have 10 square miles. You know what a 10 square mile is? 3 mile by 3 mile. There's nothing there.
So it comes back to infrastructure. If you talk about the roads and potable, drinking water is very important here. And it's amazing that Nigeria
Let me hold you there. Anambra State is a liquid state. For those of us who are in infrastructure, that's what they call liquid state. That is the eastern bank of Anambra State, which is the eastern bank of River Niger, borders on the western bank of Anambra State. And so there's a huge water aquifer there. Okay? So because Anambra State has not been intensively developed, it could pop a borehole and run, like I said, remember the physical size, 40 miles by 40 miles. I ride a bicycle of 40 miles one stretch. So I could have, crisscrossed Anambra State in a bicycle ride in 2-3 hours. And for how long Anambra State has existed, remember Anambra people say they are the smartest Igbos. Okay, if you're smart, show it with your state. It's the most dysfunctional state in the Igbo land to run, because everybody there thinks they are smarter than everybody else. But the state is physically depressing. There are no major industries. There are nothing. Onitsha, which happened, one time in our history, if you were a student, they say is the largest open market in West Africa. Go to Onitsha. The flies the smell that is in that place will get you sick. Okay, again, you could take that same story and put in Lagos State, where Tinubu is coming from. What is Lagos? It has no subway, open gutter. The place smells. People, think about Lekki. People think about Banana Republic. How big are those places physically for a city state that has 17 million people, or for whatever the number is? If Lagos were a state or a country in Europe, it would be like the fourth largest, largest country in terms of size. But what is there? And then when you look at their state budget, how much of the money is coming from local activity? So those are the challenges. I'm not going to talk about, what is his name, Atiku, because Atiku is one of the biggest A-heads, Nigeria's ever had, from custom to governor, and Obasanjo I don't know what the strategy Obasanjo was looking at. He put him in there, and all of a sudden now he looks like a credible man. The man is nobody. The man has no content. If you sit down with him and try to, make a conversation with him, he doesn't have anything to say. He's not an inspiring speaker. You need a leader in a very tough environment like Nigeria, somebody who can energize them, somebody who can say, look, I'm going to do this job, but here are the challenges, and I need your support. None of these people can do it. Not P2B, not Atiku, not Tinubu, or the other candidate. So, it comes 2023, Nigeria is going to have to swallow another bitter pill. Because none of these guys.
All three you've analyzed, all three. It's amazing that you've actually scored them low. And quite frankly,
because I've monitored them. I mean, I don't live in. I haven't been in Nigeria for 35 years or so. I come home often, but I'm well read. I read and write.
But again, the thing here is that Nigerians are left with either of these.
That's what I'm saying. The bitter pill.
Candidates.
Every one of them is going to give them a bitter pill, not P2B. I know the excitement in the Igbos. I mean, it's back to what we had in 1979. What is his name? Shagari, MPN, Awolowo, UPN, Zik, MPP. That's what we're repeating itself now. So for as long as this political thing has been in Nigeria, we haven't collapsed to the tribal identity, the tribal politics we play to where we say, let us begin to look at credible, substantive, solid Nigerians who have the heart of the country in mind and who are looking at the millions of miserable Nigerians who are not paid salaries on time, whose pensions are not even paid on time. You go to many of these federal government buildings, they are very dilapidated. I went to Amechi's, Federal Ministry of Transportation in Abuja. I could not believe the office where people, what they work out of and the facilities they have to work. But everybody celebrates the ministers. Everybody celebrates the individual. But look at the facilities. If you go to the government house, a lot of them have nothing to show.
And what exactly do you think is wrong, Ejike? Sometimes when you speak and you have some facts to actually back your conversation with anyone, sometimes they look you in the eye and they make it look like it's all hogwash. We have to start talking about some key things so that people can start understanding what we're dealing with. Why do you think it's getting so hard or almost impossible for the average Nigerian, especially if he or she is a follower of any of the political, leaders, to understand some of the key concerns you have just raised?
Because Nigerians are emotionally disposed people. They want to feel good, they don't have good feelings, and they psychologically have been demoralized and and displaced by their political figure. So anytime somebody is showing up as their governor, senator, they're not looking at, can this person actually effect a change in my life or in this life of the community? They're looking at, oh, I know this person, when he or she gets over there, maybe I can, this is our turn to chop. Isn't that what this whole thing is our turn to chop, because now he's my friend. Now he can, maybe I can get an appointment, I can get a contract. That's what is motivating them. They're not looking at it as, even if your village man is the president, how has that changed your life? We have seen the records. You go to the villages of all these so-called people, Obasanjo, Yaradua, and Jonathan. Even though the people celebrate them for, our people have produced this. How has that, like my wife always asks me, how what has that got to do with the price of bread? Does it mean their own civil servants, they are getting paid on time? Does it mean that the roads are being built for them in their villages? Does it mean that, the things that on a collective, common good, greater good, way that they are all good? No, you just have a big house in the villages that say, oh, this is this person's house. Other than that, there's no other economic activity. There's nothing going on. So Nigerians have to begin to ask themselves questions and say, we are not new in this. We have been electing people since, when was that? 1960, when we did the prime minister, president structure of government. 60 something years. Don't they have this saying that a fool at 40 is a fool forever? How many more years do Nigerians need to have in order for them to know that they are being screwed by the same people they chant for? How many more years? So it has to come from a personal understanding, and that personal understanding.
But again, let me jump in here. At every election, Nigerians have this feeling and this, that is almost over. The dark days, are almost over. And once they jumped into the election proper and someone is elected, it looks like, darker than it was. So what exactly the people...
Let's start with 99.
What exactly the people aren't getting here? Because there's, first of all, renewed hope, and you go to the polls, and the elections are there, the results are out, and people jubilate, and then there's a dip.
Yes, because again, remember at the opening or beginning of this, I said Nigeria plays personality politics. There are not institutions that hold these people accountable. There are nothing, it's just celebration. Oh, it's my man, it's my person, is a blah, blah, blah. And so that's what people celebrate when the election goes, but actually getting the job done. I mean, look at all the contracts that have been awarded in each state, for water, for road, for this. There is no strong construction company that has ever emerged out of all the contracts Nigeria has awarded to build a robust, credible construction company. So because these governors award contracts to their friends. So their friends are as good as they are in office. And sometimes the friends that are awarded these contracts have no capacity, no knowledge to do it, except that they know the governor, who is going to take care of him or them, and they say, go build me the roads. So you go look at all the roads. Nigeria, for a country that has existed for 100 and something years from the amalgamation, okay, there is not 5,000 miles of well-built roads. So if you divide 5,000 miles by 104 or 5 years Nigeria has existed as a country, that means for every year of Nigerian life, if we built less than 40 miles of road, what is there to build roads? What is there to build? Yesterday I went to Houston, Texas, which is 250 miles away. I left Dallas by noon. I hit Houston by 3. I did what I needed to do, and I turned around. So in a day, I drove 500 miles. I was still in my suit. No sweat, nobody pulled me over. Can you do that in Nigeria? Can you do that in Nigeria? And you have Nigerian engineers that have engineers in all aspects, and we don't have Nigerians capable of building these things. 90% of what you need to build.
And again, that's another problem because you and I, we've had this conversation many years ago, over 30 years ago, before you left Nigeria. You were one of those fantastic, professionals here, and we also have people like yourself who's stayed back. What do you think is the problem that the Nigerian government or governments across the country don't engage these professionals to help solve some of our, local problems?
Good question. Who are the biggest influence on Nigerian economy? World Bank, IMF. So if Nigeria government wants to say anything, the World Bank said we should say. Who says we should say? UNDP, United Nations Development Program. Nigerians don't know how to recruit talent. You know that saying in the Bible, no prophet has honor. They said it for the black race. The black race does not know how to tap into their own talent and put them out there. I said, what do we do? How do we bring the local international? I mean, there is no country in the world a Nigerian doesn't live in there, or born of Nigerian ancestry that is not in there. Why don't you invite some of them home and say, look, okay, on the 10 sectors of an economy, this is what our focus, these 10 sectors. What are we missing? What are we missing? And they don't have that conversation. Instead, they run. When Jonathan was in office, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala convinced him to have an office of the World Bank in the Aso Rock. I have never seen such a stupid something. I mean, World Bank is here in Washington, D.C. We don't even invite them to testify in U.S. Congress about anything.
So you think that wasn't a good idea?
No, that was excuse my French here. That was a stupid idea coming from Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who supposedly is, this Madame Messiah, who's going to solve problems for Nigeria. Why do you need World Bank in the office of the president? Why? Why would you go to the National Assembly of Nigeria and say the World Bank or IMF say Nigeria needs to have this kind of money? Have they ever quoted the Lagos Institute of Economic Studies said the Nigerian economy or University of Nigeria, blah, blah? We need to begin to highlight the content, intellectual content of our own people, and not to always run to these institutions who oftentimes are detached from us, and people who sit at a very fancy desk in some foreign office with a fancy title when they show up in Africa, hand us a business card and everybody's panicking. I can tell you, bro, put the best World Bank guy with me to debate on Nigeria and they will not see my traffic light. Because it's not just about flashing the degree and the certificate. It's about actually understanding the core things that drives an economy. Money is a creation of policy. You don't have to borrow from anybody. You could make your local currency work for you. But if you start
and how do we come about such policies that would actually drive the economy?
Nigeria has to say, hey, we're not borrowing. And I mean, there are certain things you remember in economics, that's what they call comparative advantage. Okay, so there are certain things we're going to need from somebody. When that thing comes, we will find a way to buy it. but we're going to build the economy on Naira. Okay? We're going to build the roads on Naira. If we need to print it, we print it. But all this running around, chasing the dollar, chasing the pound, chasing whatever anybody's going to hand you, and they don't give you enough for you to survive, is never going to get you wealthy. You can never borrow yourself into wealth. You have to internally do it. The Naira should be by now, because you have enough educated, well-trained Nigerians that are, it's like idling. Nobody's tapping into that talent. To use the Naira to build Nigerian roads, do it Naira to build Nigerian water system, use the Naira to build. Sometimes you could trade the oil in Naira. I mean, how did Saudi Arabia do what they did? Saudi Arabia, for one of the conditions for them to join OPEC was, hey, we're going to trade oil for infrastructure. So if they want something specific, they say, hey, how many barrels of crude can we give you? You build us this. Nigeria tried to sell their own and get IOU, and then cash. And poor people love cash. So once they get the cash, they squander it. And that's what is being killing. So as much as, with Nigeria will never be a wealthy nation depending on a single commodity. Because, 2 million barrels being produced by 200 million people is not going to scratch the surface of what is needed. So we got to go back now and start to do an internal policies that strengthens collection, taxes. Nigerians don't like to pay taxes.
But again, I think there was an attempt by Nigeria. They thought it over, and they said, wait a minute, we cannot do well with the mono economy. Let's de-emphasize the oil and see how we can get into agriculture and other small business. Perhaps maybe this is where financing will come in. We'll still come back to alternative energy. But again, speak to us on the attempt by Nigeria to diversify.
But look, okay, anytime you look at the federal budget, that's your diversification right there. Nothing is the proof until that annual budget is announced. And so the annual budget is the total amount of money, what we're going to spend money on, and what our revenues are, what our recurring expenses are, and then our capital stuff. Okay? So each time you look at it, today in Nigeria, about 200 million people. Okay? What is the federal government budget? Remember, the federal government budget is where all the states get their money from. Apart from Lagos, that may have 50-50 sort of internally generated revenue and that of the federal government. Most other states are less than 20% what comes from internal sources. So oil becomes the single highest earner for the Nigerian federal government budget. It hasn't changed in more than 23 years since Obasanjo came in. Oil is. So what you got to do is you begin to see this oil begin to come down to where oil contribution to the Nigerian budget becomes 20%. And 80% is internally generated, because there are a lot of activities going on in Nigeria. But what happens is that there are not effective tax administration to capture those activities. Remember when Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala went to National Assembly and kind of confused this ignorant bunch of people and said, oh, Nigeria is the largest economy? That's a simple 101 economics. If you look at the number of Nigerians and the activities they spend their money on, it's going to make the continent volume, volume of activity. But here is the trick. How much of those activities are captured as a federal government revenue? And the way you capture it is through what? Taxes. So there's a lot of spending going on, but it's not being captured. Take, for instance, Lagos. If Lagos were to produce, say, 2 billion gallons of water every day, because that will support what, that's even less. But let's say they're able to do that. And everybody in Lagos buys 15 gallons of water daily and pay one naira per gallon. Do the math. They will get more money from the revenue of water surcharge than they are getting from the federal government based on oil. You need water. You need it. It's one of the most critical resources anybody needs in order to survive. And Nigeria doesn't have any water system. No state has a water system. They have water supply. And so because of the absence of this critical infrastructure, they're not going to be able to attract quality companies into Nigeria. They're not coming. I live in Dallas, Texas, and Texas Instruments, the calculator cheap people, they buy water from City of Dallas Water Department. You know how many gallons they buy? 1 point something billion gallons a year. to use to process the microchip. So if this is instrument to say, oh, we want to open a branch in Nigeria because there are Nigerian engineers, it's, blah, blah, blah. The first question they'll ask is, where's your water supply system? You say borehole, X. They're not coming. Where's your power? Oh, we're going to pile up on generators. Boom. They're not coming. So you are not positioning yourself to attract quality industries.
And to think that we have a water resources, ministry. To think of such innovative, ways whereby, apart from the development it will bring, apart from the health it will actually improve. We're looking at the business angle, which you just highlighted. So now these are some of the conversations that the people must bring to bear as the candidates come before them. Now, I want us to see how we can tie this, because now we're getting into that business angle. Then pretty much later we'll touch on all three,
yes.
The tripod. The financing is very key here.
Yes.
And I've seen small businesses, go out of, existence. We've seen people struggle. And at the moment, a lot of businesses have folded up, packed up in Nigeria.
Yes.
Speak to us about financing and how important this is, and can this actually help bring back these small business owners?
Yes. I mean, just like air is the air and water. I mean, without it, we cannot live. Okay? Then without financing, we can do business. And then when you talk about finance, you talk about how robust it is, what are the terms and conditions. I mean, anybody can borrow money. If I lend you 1 million naira at the rate of 30%, I will choke you, even though I'm lending you 1 million naira. So the terms and the conditions are very important. The Nigerian National Assembly, through the Nigerian Banking Association, have never submitted anything about how to address these terms and conditions. They have not. So the banks, if you go to any bank, no matter how healthy, except how healthy your balance sheet is, or what you're talking about, they're going to lend you money at an interest rate that, by the time they add all the fees and fines they want, you are way into the double digits, approaching 30-40%. So let's look at money in this manner. Money can be borrowed on what they call interest only or amortization. Those are the two critical ways you pay back money. So interest only is what? I lend you 1 million naira and I say interest only for 1 year. Okay? So you're paying me 30% every year. Okay? That means me, the lender, I'm going to get from you 300,000 naira. You, the businessman, you have to triple the amount of interest payment in order to satisfy that debt. So you have to be making close to 600,000, 700,000 naira in order to justify paying me 300,000. Which business are you going to be doing to earn that kind of return? So if the government is serious about supporting businesses, they should go in and do what they call usury law, USURY law, to say you cannot charge interest rate of this percentage on this side of industry. So that business people, because the business people are the ones who are going to create the jobs. They're the ones who are going to employ people. Government don't create jobs. And then you talk about longevity of the debt. You can't be lending people money on 6 months, 1 year. What are you going to be able to do? You can say the minimum any Nigerian chartered bank, the minimum is usually by law. If not, shut down, fold up and get away. You're not in the banking business. Must be 10 years. In fact, 15 years is the minimum you can lend anybody money, and the interest rate based on the sector you are cannot be X. Because what it happens now is that the bank managers and their CEOs lend money to politicians. When Olumelu was chairman of UBA, and that's when China was showing interest in Africa, they looked at the books of UBA, and they found out that 80% of UBA outstanding debt were uncollectible. There were loans made to politicians. Debt actually is an asset, because that's a future revenue. People are paying you. Okay? When in the case of UBA, so you go look at all the top banks in Nigeria and look at their debt ratio. It's huge, but the thing is, are they collectible? And what are they secured on? So that's a policy thing. You have to begin to make those policies. Like in America, 85% of our jobs are small businesses. Businesses that hire less than.
The key thing I picked here is looking at the 15 years, period. And if you put that to what we see in Nigeria, it's choking the life out of these businesses. And that is why the small businesses have gone extinct.
Yeah.
But why is it that our banking policies, especially as regards helping small businesses stay afloat, are almost inimical to the growth of the same business you're trying to support?
Because again, the banks in Nigeria look at lending you money as doing you a favor. But banks are not businesses. The banks are actually liability companies because they take people's deposits, and they have to have ratios of deposit to ratios of debt and all that stuff, and they have to earn money. The interest rate they pay you on your money has to come from people paying back on borrowed money. So, but Nigerian banks, there's no truth in lending in Nigeria. So, like if you go to any Nigerian bank and say, "Oh, I want to borrow 5 million naira," they're not going to send you anything in writing and tell you, "Okay, we can lend it. This is the terms, these are the conditions," so that you have to almost go and chase the bank manager. Go to his house or her house, attend Christmas parties, whatever it is may be, in order for him to say, "Okay, come for house, make we talk about this one now." And then when they lend you the money, they might say, where's the brown envelope? You do that in America, you go to jail. You freaking go into jail because of the way we have what they call the federally insured institutions. You cannot be doing that. So in Nigeria, no, the bank managers feel like they are gods. And all they're doing is trading. They're doing short-term stuff. Oh, you want to go buy what is his name? Dangote. Go bag a bunch of sugar, bring it to the wharf. Traders are lined up and he's offloading, they're paying him. That's not banking. That's not banking. Or, you go lend money on real estate and tell people, "I'm going to finance your mortgage for 2 years." That's not banking. And you want people to pay 2-3 years advance rent. That's not banking. That is just lending them money at a choking condition. So the Nigerians have to come back. The Nigerian policy people come back and say, "Hey, no more of that. You can't charge people advance rent. They should pay rent on a monthly basis because the government are not paying people advance rent salaries. Have you collected your 3-year salaries and ahead of time? So why are you asking people that are not regularly being paid to go pay advance something?" The government is absent and negligent in their duties to ignore these things that are killing Nigerians. And it has to come from policy.
From policies, no doubt, and it's getting clearer and it's making sense. And if you stretch this, Ejike, it looks as if on the one hand, you say you're fighting corruption. On the other hand, you're also encouraging corruption.
Yeah. Because now you see the cases of an accountant general who pocketed the 80 billion naira. I was like, what kind of accounting system do they have for one staff member to pocket that kind of money? They should make it tighter that nobody in that level should spend money of the government. In fact, anything above 1 million naira has to be disclosed, blah, blah, blah. But you hear all these people pocketing money and building shopping centers, and the salaries are not being paid. The way money enables an economy is it has to be predictable, it has to be dependable, it has to be reliable. So if your salary is coming in at 50,000 naira a month, no questions asked. You could tailor your expenses based on that. You could now go out and say, "Hey, landlord, I will pay you on this day," because you're going to get paid. But if the Nigerian cannot even depend that the salary will be paid, how are they going to? So now you are disposing them to find short corners in order to satisfy their need. And that is choking the economy. So again, it goes back to the policies, but since you are dealing with personalities, issues, then you're not going to get that. Because with Nigerian journalists or even people are not asking critical questions of these so-called people. Instead, they
Well,
want.
let's say the way it is. Let's call a spade, even as a journalist. I think truly, and that is why I like it. On Political Stew, we don't hold back anything. We're not asking the questions. And
Yes.
if you look at so many things across the world, even in the fight against corruption, it has always started. Always been started by journalists, by the media. But it doesn't look the same in Nigeria, because these are the questions, and it's gone beyond whether you're a Muslim or whether you're a Christian, whether you're an Igbo man or a Hausa man. It must be issues based. And Lasisi Ayola, watching, has said water and electricity are important, and I'm happy that you've brought that here. It's so important, yet Nigerians have almost forgotten about water.
Yeah, but again, I mean, okay, like I said, America existed, 106 years before electricity popped up. And since it has popped up, the country has developed. And now in this modern economy, you can't do much without robust power. You can't, because industries run on it. Even our Facebook and conversation we're having, if your light goes up now, we're gone. We can't see each other. So, so if a company is coming into your geography, the first thing they ask you is, okay, access road. Can I bring in my equipment and products? Where am I going to move it? Where's your water? How much power? I mean, I'm in economic development, and I look for sites for companies to relocate. Anytime I'm identifying a site and I go to that community, I say, who is your power provider? My client is going to be needing this type of power. In fact, there was one little town I went to, and there was a company coming in. When they went in there and turned on their plant, anytime they turn on their plant, the entire city light would dim. I mean, because the plant is sucking in, it's a power thing. And they corrected it, because now they had to find a way to boost that power need. So it can't do it by generator. All this whole idea of, I have, standby and standby on top standby. No, those things are not. It's a temporary solution that Nigeria have now seen as a permanent one. And it has distracted them from going in and finding robust. And then when they went into these discos and the transcos and all, they started giving the licenses to their friends. So in Nigeria today, you don't have utility companies, because if you look at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, there's no power company listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. None. So anytime these guys get licensed, I'm going to produce 5 megawatts. I think Nigeria government, again, this is a regional thing they have to do. If you cannot produce a minimum of 5,000 megawatts, you're not going to be in that business.
It comes back to policies.
We can't get a license, and you have to show how you're going to raise money from the Nigerian Community Stock Exchange. You have to show how to raise 70%, because Alade, the benefit of that? If you start raising money from the Nigerian capital market, you are making Nigerians wealthy. But if you are borrowing excessively from the outside, you are making Nigerians work harder while you're enriching outside people. That's where the policy has to come in. We have a lot of pension funds. We have a lot of liquidity floating around in Nigeria, but they are not collectively put in as a capital money for people to use for infrastructure. So anytime, in 2000 and something, I think I shared the letter with you. I wrote that, current Minister of Transport, what is his name, Amechi. I actually was in Abuja, and I met with their director on alternative ways to finance infrastructure. They like the idea, but guess what? I'm not coming to bribe anybody. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I said, I can show you how to finance infrastructure in Nigeria. You don't have to take one more penny. In fact, the world will not start begging you to take their money, because there's a lot of capital lying in wait in Nigeria, but there is not a structure to mobilize this money in order to place them into assets for Nigerians to be paid back and they get wealthy. I mean, look at Dangote, the richest black man in the world. Is run out of cash based on an article that's written. His refinery is sitting there. He doesn't even know when he's going to complete it. Why should that be? Why should that be? because there's not a structure to capture for the Nigerians to invest. Instead, they're running around looking for money laundering sources to put money in their company. Let the Nigerians start buying shares in this company. So that way the management will be a little more stronger. The governance, corporate governance will be a little more tighter. If you steal money from the company, the investors know how to come after you. Right now, it's the government. I mean, where is this design, whatever, Alison Madeke? Didn't she somewhere in England after they said some money vanished from the petroleum industry? Where is she? But if it was capital money of Nigerians invested in the petroleum refinery, they will chase her. They will go find her because they have, they have been deprived of their own investment returns. But since the government is nobody in Nigeria, except whoever is handling it at the time, that is why Nigerians get detached. But if the Nigerians are invested and you steal their money, there. They will not pay. You don't need
in all of these, we've talked about electricity, we've talked about water, we've talked about financing. But again, let's see if we can actually open up electricity again. Now, it doesn't look like things are working. You mentioned the discos and also talked about how these were broken into 3 parts and some others handed over to their political, friends and business partners. Is there an alternative to this? And shouldn't Nigeria be looking at? Yeah,
there's not an alternative to power. And then, but there's the way the Nigerian approach to the solution is wrong. You can't have all these people producing power everywhere. The Nigerian power grid is weak. It cannot handle the power that may be produced and dumped on the line. And so, I met with the chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Committee, one Dr. Momo Mumu, whatever, he's in Abuja. And they brought him from, America, professor, blah, 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 but he was never involved in a utility company. I have done utility work in America. Okay, I know how power works. I know the economics of power. So, if you're generating, the next logical question is, what is your transmission? What's just your ability to transmit that power? It's like if you have, 5 million gallons of water and you're going to move it in a 1-inch pipeline, you're going to choke the pipeline. So all of those things are part of the critical infrastructure. And then you talk about the distribution, the step up and the step down, the substations and all of those things. And then regulation. Okay, at what point does Nigeria, is a tropical country, that means, we got to need power all the time. But, you got to look at that. And then the land use in Nigeria is also a challenge because of the way Nigerians build and where they build. There are no zonings, there are no regulations, there are no deed restrictions. So power need, if you need 5 megawatts to do, you probably need to be producing 5.6 to account for this redundancy and dead need in the system because the land use is wrong. From beginning. Now, we can overcome that by producing more in order to do what? Handle the load. But if with the current land use and the deaded transmission lines with infrastructure, anytime you go in there, sometimes the power outage is not because there's no power, it's because the lines cannot handle the power. So they trip. And then the power people go in and do something and they come back on. So the electricity economics, I'll share you books on it to read. You don't have to be an engineer to really figure this out. It's only in Nigeria that they say, an engineer, people go around electrical engineer. No. It's a business, it's an economic, it's a commodity. You got to figure out how to produce it, how to sell it, and how to keep the system going. And it's the way you keep the system going, people are paying their bills. But people cannot pay their bills if their salaries are not being paid on time.
So now let's start going home, and it has to do with going back to how it started. These are issues that politicians and political leaders must look into year in, year out. And of course, Nigerians talk about the need for these, very vital, aspect of national life. The politicians are not, strangers to some of the things you've highlighted. They come to the West, now talking about America and Europe, Now, come to think of it, talking about energy and power, we've seen a lot of Nigerians come to Texas, your state, for the OTC. And one would have thought that that meeting, I see you chuckle, that meeting or the knowledge shared there would have actually helped Nigeria's oil and gas sector.
No, I've met a bunch of them. The OTC is a Houston event, is a jamboree for Africans. There's this wrong impression by Nigerians that because you've been abroad, you're exposed, you should go home and do it. What Nigerians lack is the why and how of things. They don't come here and say, hey, at the time when Abacha was in office, there was a group of estate surveyors that came to a housing thing in Nigeria, in a housing convention in Dallas. And I took them around and they were like, oh my God, American government derose the housing. I said, okay, even though he's one of the top real estate people in Nigeria, I had to educate him. I said, no, these are private efforts. But these private efforts are backed by policies and regulations that make the government say, we're going to put money here and we're going to put it at this interest rate and we're going to encourage you to go do it. And he was shocked because he thought American government built all the roads and American government built all our housing. Heck no. We have a robust financing structure that also captures the various levels of Americans, whether you are low income, workforce housing, conventional, blah, blah, blah. There are policies addressing. U.S. Department of Agriculture, this will shock you, has more than $40 billion for housing. Agriculture and housing. What they do? Rural housing. So they charge like 2% for 40 years on their mortgage. Nigerian Ministry of Agriculture, do they even have an idea? You see, that's what I'm saying. So when they come, instead of saying, hey, let's find a Nigerian who is in this system, who can sit down with us and explain the differences. Okay, what do we do? They start to have these presumptions. Nigerians are very presumptuous. Oh, I've been to London, but they have no clue. Even some of us that live here don't even understand how the system is set up. So you have to go through this whole pile of Nigerians and find one or two or three who can sit down with you and begin to say, hey, do compare and contrast and say, here's the direction, here's your potential, here's how we can pull away from this thing. But if you just take it because they've been to America, I hear people be jumping all over, going to Egypt, going to this and blah, blah, blah. What is he going to understand? You want people to come home. I have a brother who at the time worked for the local government where my family is from. And he said, oh, bros, can they bring people here to come? And I said, you don't need to come here. Invite me. I will come down and sit down with you guys for a week and explain certain things for you. But their interest is not that. Their interest is to come out so that they can get some foreign exchange money and they say, oh, we've been to America. I say, if you come here and I'm explaining this whole thing to you, you will not understand it. But if I come home and give you the format and the law you need to pass or legislation you need to think about, then when you come to see it, you can relate to it. So they come here, they see water system. Okay? Oh, wow, look at that. But, our water, even though the city of Dallas has a water department, the city of Dallas don't give budgets to the water department because they have to produce the water and sell it to us, the residents. So it's an authority that runs on its own. They don't get budget. Our airports are owned by the city. We don't give them budget. How many Nigerian airports will survive without the federal government, the Ministry of Aviation giving them annual budget? They won't. Because those airports are not run as authority. They don't generate enough revenue, or if they do, a lot of the revenue is pocketed by some bad administrative structure they have. So these are they have things they are doing, but they are not doing it properly. And therefore, the country is not collectively moving forward.
It looks comical, but again, it's a question because it's also, we've had some people somewhere in the world talk about those who are chosen, those who are God's people. Do you think Nigerians are going through what they're going through because they're not chosen? You know how they say, that talk about the Jews that they're chosen.
No, well, you and I have had personal, we talk like brothers. So I'm going to say it on your show. Okay, I don't believe in that excuse my French again, crap about Israel or the Jews being chosen, because God never created an unchosen people. Okay, so I mean, what is the opposite of chosen? Unchosen. So if any particular group of people will come out and say, "Oh, I'm the chosen one," so does it mean I'm unchosen? That means God is wicked. That means God is partial. God is not a partial creator. That aside, when in the Bible they say let there be light, I always joke with this. I guess Nigeria was not on the map of the let there be light. That's why it's never been light. But what it is actually is for the Nigerian to begin to self cleanse and say, these things we can do. But how are we going to do it? We're going to have to be, the Bible again says no prophet is recognized in their own village. Nigerians take it literally. That's why you will have Lebanese, Indians, Pakistan, anybody that can go to Nigeria with Ghana must go back. And they go back with a briefcase of money. They come to Nigeria and they succeed because we pay attention to these people. We sort of defer and think, the lighter your skin, the better they are. And then they take advantage of Nigeria. But there are a lot of Nigerians that are mentally superior, mentally vigorous. They figure these things out, but our politicians, for whatever reasons, have overlooked going to them because, first of all, it may not be their tribesmen. First of all, they may want somebody who will come over there and hero worship them and bow to them and do all of that, and they do it at the expense of the greater good. And that's what has happened. They are not recruiting, they are not wooing. There's a difference just hiring people. You have to woo. You have to recruit. You have to go like you. If you have a talent, America will come to you, give you a green card, bring you, say, come over here. So it is based on what value are you bringing as opposed to where you come from. Nigerians do where you come from a lot. Are you bowing to Yoruba man? Are you going to Hausa man, Lankadede? Are you saying Igwe to, before all of these things are done, they forget the bigger picture. Even though culture has value, if the culture is not producing value for the greater community, maybe we need to get rid of it. Instead of all this constant, you bow by the time you finish calling their name. Sometimes if you don't address them properly, they get mad and they kick you out.
Now let's talk about Nigerian youth. In all of these, looking at infrastructure, power, and financing deficit, how can the Nigerian youth, ensure that these and more are put on the plate so that they're not distracted? They should be able to look in the eye of anyone that comes to them and say, wait a minute, let us in on how you can actually fix A, B, C, and more.
Well, again, the youths, the people that are in office today were youths 20, 30 years ago. And they're doing the same thing at the time they were whining about or complaining about. But you see, because there's no accountability in the culture of most Nigerians. The governor can go, if governor can come to a village or the president say, I'm gonna give you guys 5 million, 1 billion naira. The village people start to jump up and down. Nobody ever said, where is that money coming from? Where is that money in the budget? Because the Nigerian government structure is a benevolent. So the youths that you're talking about, if some governor or a candidate running for office, they come to my compound and give every one of them 5,000 naira, give them rice and hot beer, and say, go over there and make it happen for me, the youths will go crazy. For 5,000 naira, for 10,000 naira. So they haven't, again, they don't pull back. Nigerians don't pull back and say, okay, what's 5,000 naira going to do for me? The youths that you're talking about are the ones who are going to go kill on behalf of these candidates whose children are abroad going to school, while the Nigerian local universities are being run down. I went to University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. I went to their teaching hospital. I couldn't believe how deplorable and dilapidated that place is. But any rich Nigerian feels the glorified things for them to do is for their kids to go to school abroad. So they used to be saying, when you see a candidate, say, where are your kids? What universities are they attending? What? Tell us. University of Nigeria? Okay, what hostel do they live in? Anybody whose kids are going to school in Nigeria or abroad, you should not vote for them. And then you ask them, where are you getting your medical treatment? When you're sick, where do you go? London, America, Japan? Well, what's wrong with our own hospital? We're not voting for you. You begin to demand those things. Because if your president takes your healthcare system serious, you should make sure that is a good one there for him and there for everybody else. Not every little thing they hop in the plane and they go. It's glorifying for a Nigerian to say, "Oh, Oga died abroad," or "Madam died abroad." Abi, oh, Madam went to medical checkup abroad. So at the time, the youth will be at the airport where the coffin is being bringing and they're dancing. No, don't show up. Let the man carry his work, corpse, go bury as ever they want. So those are the questions. Where are your kids going to school? Are your kids abroad? When did they leave? Or were you paying for them? Or how you pay? You know what I mean? When you are sick, do you have a water system or a borehole where you live? Can we come fetch water in your compound? Because can you open it up for us? And that could shock them. Because now you're asking them what they have over the years within their policy capacity to do, but they've taken it for granted. So that's my message to the youth. Don't go rioting. Don't go fighting for any of these politicians, because their kids, if they want to fight for them, let their kids be in the front line. Okay? Let their kids be over there and start doing Oshebe on your behalf of their father or their uncle. But not you, because you are being used. And then when you get killed, nobody shows up. Tell them, I'm not rioting for you. I'm not talk for you. Where are your kids? Because their kids are going to be in sheltered environment, in whatever it is they are. Why you are the one unfortunate one, you're out there breaking your neck on their behalf. Stop doing that. Vote for them, vote against them.
It's a fine place for us to leave it, and I do hope we'll always, from time to time, have your your time, to be on the program, so that we can keep talking about developing Nigeria, developing Africa, because there are a lot of things to look at, and it's amazing that some of these things are as easy as A and B, but because of the absence of policies and policy drivers, it looks like rocket science. I'd like to thank you, Ejike Okpa, for your time, as always.
Well, I want to ask you for one favor. What is the vitamin you are eating for this, so I can have some of that?
And the vitamin is trying to understand the pain Nigerians and Nigeria is going through, and also trying to work with people like yourself to proffer solutions. It's everybody's business. We must ensure that. Yes, we must ensure that.
There's a song they call Atlanta on my mind. Even though I've been out for 30-something years, I visit often. It concerns me when I see how when I come home, I see people my age, well educated or probably smarter than I am, because of the environment, how they are. It hurts me. It makes me cry, because it shouldn't be. I'm not saying anybody is entitled to good life, but some of the frustration in Nigeria is man-made, because the people who have the duty and responsibility to do it take it for granted, because they feel that, hey, I can do it. What are you going to do? Once Nigerians can let them figure, you cannot do this anymore. You can't be squandering our national commonwealth on behalf of yourself and your family and your friends. You can't do it anymore. That is a strong statement that needs to go to these people who are your excellencies, who do nothing excellent. Let them know, you may have done it on Monday. This is Tuesday. You ain't going to do it anymore. So for those people that are there, the life is in your hand. Do not look to politicians to change your life. You better start changing it by changing them to do what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, you become the goat that they have tied on a village tree, and they feed you grass as whenever they want to feed you grass. You are entitled to good life. The politicians are not the one. You make them do the job. As always, I appreciate the audience. I'm available to you. You don't have to ask. You just let me know, so that we keep having this thought-provoking conversation. I'm not here for a crusade. I'm not here to be liked. If you don't like me, I do you a favor. I don't like you back. I move on, because I have a life to live, and I'm happy for the life I've lived, because I have been self-propelled. I could have come back to Nigeria when my brother-in-law was governor, but I said, no, I don't like military government. I'm not coming. And here I am. I have built my own reputation based on my own knowledge, but how about other people? How can I be part of that change that they will be good? So you're the one helping me make the change. Let's keep doing it.
Thank you very much again. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Lasisi and Abechi, and of course, Lucas Bashir Samson. Thank you very much. Olauton, Pablo, thank you so much. I'm Sulaiman, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.